Hello! As you might have guessed, the project for today is a miniature bar scene. This one was a pretty special one because it was for my dad, and I took a lot of inspiration from the bar we had in our basement growing up. So there's a lot of personal touches. Welcome to my clutter, and we're about to get started. As you'll see, a lot of the items I used came from my local Dollar Tree, especially the wood items that I'm going to be starting with. I decided to use my Lindy's Gang magical powder pigment to paint most of the wood pieces. I think it gives it a really nice stain effect, and there is just a little hint of sparkle as well. The main color I used is this bandolier brown, and all you have to do is mix with a little bit of water. I was using a water brush that has water inside of the base to get the consistency that I liked, and I again really think it creates a nice stain effect. These two pieces were found in the craft section at Dollar Tree, and I used the same color on these to get this result. These are going to be used in the back wall of the bar to create some shelving. This piece was actually from the Dollar Tree. It held small wood chip pieces. It was a garden theme. So it was really just a holder for those little pieces, but I wanted to use this. I thought it would be great as mirror shelving for the back of the bar. I'm switching to this Gnome Berry Bordeaux to add a little bit of a different color and some contrast to this piece. It's kind of got like a copper look to it once it's applied. And again, as you can see, a little bit of the pigment goes a long way. I just mixed in some water from my brush, and obviously the less water, the deeper the color is going to be, and the more water, the lighter the color is going to be. I think these two colors add a rich, deep, and old-fashioned kind of tone to the project. I'll be using one of these larger popsicle sticks from the craft section of Dollar Tree as a surface. So I went ahead and also painted it that coppery color. These wood dowels from the Dollar Tree I'm also going to be incorporating. I did need to cut them down, so I have my cutters here, and I just kind of slid it around and pried until I could get it to where I could break it off. It was a little dangerous, so be careful trying that. I'm sure there's a much better way to cut these down, but I used what I had, so this is how they turned out. I'm actually painting them with this Distress Stain Stamper in brushed pewter. It's from Tim Holtz's Distress line. So this is going to give a nice metal look. My dad was a sheet metal worker, so I kind of wanted to incorporate these woods and metals, and you'll see later there's going to be more added to kind of honor that and give it that masculine look. I did do 2 coats on those of the brushed pewter. Now I'm going in with some small dowels that were left over from some furniture project, and those are going to be used later to make the chairs, bar stools. I'll be using these wood planks, also from the Dollar Tree, as the main bar part. The bar itself is going to have sections, so I just did some measuring, and I'm using an X-Acto knife to cut those end pieces so that I'll have my sections. I want to create some interest to the bar, so I'm using these smaller popsicle sticks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to kind of make a paneling effect. So here I'm just measuring the part that I need to cut off on the popsicle sticks, and I'll be going in with those cutters again to cut them down to size. You can go an extra step and use some sandpaper to kind of file down the rough edges, but I am going to just cover them with the popsicle stick panels. And here we have those pieces painted again with the bandolier brown, as well as some of the Jenga blocks from Dollar Tree, which I painted in that gnome berry Bordeaux. We're going to come back to the construction of the bar and move on to these mirror tiles that I got from Amazon. We're going to decorate them a little bit with some of the gnome berry Bordeaux Lindy's Magicals, just to create a little bit of an antiquing effect to them, and then you'll see what we do with them next. Using my heat tool very quickly to help along the drying process. And here's what these will end up looking like. Using some of my Finnabair metallic wax in rich copper, I'm going to add a little bit more interest to this. I'm going to edge the mirror tile pieces with the wax, and these mirror tiles actually have a sticky backing, so you just saw me pull off the backing. So once I get this wax on the edges, I'm going to be adding them into the little squares of our shelf background. This step proved to be a little tricky, so I used the other end of my brush and some tweezers to kind of help me get the mirror tile right where I wanted it in the background. I knew from the start that I wanted to add lights, just like you would see in most little bars or big bars. So I'm using this battery pack. I've threaded it through the bottom slot there, and I'm going to have it go through all the back of the wall. So I'm just trying to set things up to be able to make that happen. Before I continue with that, I'm using this scrap copper paper to keep in line with the metal theme to cover the slots on the bottom of the floor. I'll be using these three main glues throughout my project. I've got my hot glue gun, Fabri-Tac, which leaves a pretty permanent bond, and Collage Medium. So here I'm just showing how I'm starting to get some of the background glued into place, and I've got the lights strung all throughout where I want them. That was tricky, but we did accomplish it. And now I'm using some washi tape to just make a nice edge where we put our copper flooring down. So now we've got some key pieces in place in the background here. Our lights are strung, and we've made that trim on the flooring. So things are starting to look like a bar a little bit here. Next, I'll be using this Dollar Tree metal tag to make a little ice chest for that gap in the bottom middle of our background. And what I'm doing right now is cutting out some decals and signs I made just using the program Canva and my printer and printing on sticker paper. So I'm just using a couple of the decals to decorate the ice chest a little bit, and then we're going to be placing it in to that gap area on the background. These metal tags are pretty easy to bend, so I just took that top part where I wanted it and used the edge of my desk to bend it over so that it's going to look a little bit more 3D once it's in place. Of course, we're going to need a handle for the ice chest, so I'm using these brads by Recollections found at Michael's. I've had them in my stash for a while, and I'm going to just cut off the little spokes, and they're pretty pliable, flexible, easy to cut off, because I just want that top part of the brad to glue on as my handle. I needed to find a way to cover the sides because ultimately what I'm trying to do is cover that little base of the light strand. I started with another piece of the metal tag and that just wasn't working, so I went ahead and found this kind of rusted metal looking paper from a paper pad I have, and that turned out to work much better. So I'm just trimming down my edges where I need them to be, and I will be gluing these into place. Adding some of the wood Jenga pieces in first to that spot, and then that's going to help me better attach the metal fridge. My next problem to solve was the fact that I'm going to be having a bar in front of this back wall, so I wanted to lift the fridge higher so you'd be able to see it, but then I would have a gap on the bottom of it. So I'm using some of this fabric from Crafter Square from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just taking some wire that I had on hand and just very quickly I trimmed a small piece of the fabric and I'm threading it through this wire just to make like a little curtain, and that's going to be attached to the bottom of that fridge so you won't see anything in the background of that. And here is the end result for the fridge, all glued into place. I think it came out pretty cute. It looks like there's some extra storage on the bottom there, and we're ready to move on. I purchased a bunch of different glasses and bottles, and I again printed out on my sticker paper some different alcohol labels that are more recognizable, and I'm going to be cutting those out and relabeling some of these bottles. Another hiccup I ran into was how transparent the stickers were. So I ended up using the backings, the white backings, to help it show up once it's on the bottle. I repeated the process, and this is what we came up with. And now I'm meticulously trying to find the perfect place for each of these bottles and glue them in, which took a very, very long time. And with the magic of this video, fortunately for you, you won't have to sit through the many hours of this process. And we're still not done. I still have a lot of little bits and pieces to add in. So hopefully you'll just enjoy this part. Not only are there going to be alcohol bottles and glasses and things like that, but I'm also including some of the signs that I printed out. And some of these actually came from pictures taken of our old bar in our house growing up. So there's going to be a lot of little Easter eggs that I am going to have my dad be able to find. So again, this is a very personal project, so there's a lot of detail. So bear with me and enjoy watching the process. So these are some of the various decals and signs that I printed out, and I'm just going to show you the couple little different things I did to complete each of these. Here I'm using some of the white background of the cardstock I've been using to make some of these signs thicker and show up better. I'm also using more of that crafter's square cloth because I'm making some pendants and I feel like this gives it a more authentic look. This is actually one of the exact pendants that my dad had in his basement bar. It was really fun to transform some of these memories into this smaller scale and include them in the bar scene. One such memento, it was one of those old-fashioned light globes with the word bar written on it in the old-fashioned font. So I'm trying to recreate that by printing out the bar letters in the sticker paper and using a big pearl as my base. It was a little hard to hold on to, but I think it came out great in the end. For this stand, I'm just using some black acrylic paint and painting on a couple coats onto this little clear wine glass. I dried it a little and glued together the two pieces, and this is what we have. Another thing my dad had decorating the bar were his old license plates from both his cars and motorcycles. So I'm using one of the throwaway tin cooking pans, and I again printed out on sticker paper the license plates. Recreated them and printed them out, and I'm just putting them on the tin and then cutting them to size. Then I'm just creating some wear and tear by bending the edges a little bit to make them look old. I also used some of the tin pan as a background for some of the other signs. And I also used one of these wood background pages from my stash to use with some of the stickers that have a wood look to them. I'm also using some of the mirrored tiles as a background for some of the stickers to recreate some of the old-fashioned mirrored signs. Just another quick look at some of the other signs and labels. I wanted to frame some of the pictures, so from my stash I pulled out this sticker sheet. It's kind of like metallic borders and frames. I randomly found it at the Dollar Tree a long time ago and never saw them since, so it was kind of a lucky purchase. But I'm just using some of the trims as frames, so you can see I'm just cutting them down to size and sticking them on. This was another one found in my dad's basement. And this is actually a minimized version of a painting my dad did himself. If you don't know me, I will tell you I tend to get a little bit extra with things, so here I am going in with some archival ink just to ink the edges of these signs to give them a little bit more of a finishing touch and more old look to them. This was another personal memento that I recreated that was found in my dad's basement bar. Switching back to some distress stain to give a rust effect to one of the tin signs. And here's just another quick look at all of the little accessories, signs, labels, all of that I've included in the project. And we're just going to continue to add these to the background. Again, I think one of the fun things with this project is going to be having my dad be able to kind of look around and just spot a lot of little Easter eggs and memories of actual things that were in his actual basement bar. So I think that's going to be a really cool part of this project. Here I'm using some tweezers to display some straws I made using some washi tape I had on hand that I just cut and rolled up, and then cut again to the size of a straw. And here is where we're at so far. I'm piecing together how I'm going to have the bar look. These were the panels and the popsicle sticks from earlier. And I also have some 3D stickers to kind of make little gates to connect the panels. I'm using more of the metal tags to create the surface of the bar. So what I did is again use them over the edge of my desk to fold the sides, and it came out pretty well. It was a little tricky to get them glued down, but I was able to in the end. I wasn't happy with the gaps in between the blocks, so I'm going back in with some of that same washi tape I used earlier, just to add a little bit of decoration and ultimately hide those gaps. This is just a little piece of gold sticker that I cut from a 3D design pack of stickers from Dollar Tree. Now I'll be using a thicker gauged wire that's still pretty pliable to create the little stand that you see a lot in old-fashioned bars. I ended up placing the bar right at the edges of those small gold stickers in the gaps in the middle, just to give it a nice finished touch, and then we're moving on to gluing on the bar's surface. I'm using both my Fabri-Tac glue and the hot glue so that I can get a quick bond and also a lasting bond. God bless you, Eleanor. I'm now gluing down these little bolts. These are from Tim Holtz's Ideology collection. They're going to be the bases for the bar stools. Now adding some accessories to the surface of the bar. I've strategically placed this beer bottle where the hole was in the metal tag so you won't see it. This is another piece from my 3D sticker collection from Dollar Tree. It's a little corner piece, and I thought it would be a cute little shelf to add a little bit more accessory to. And I'm also hot gluing the pendants to the bar. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I'm using those dowel rods, 2 to each stool, and I'm placing a gear that I have in my stash in between the two pieces as kind of like the footrest of a stool. And then the seat for the stool is actually going to be some wooden bowls that I bought at a craft store a while ago and they're just going to be upside down. And just a little PSA, I was starting to get pressed for time, so I cut some corners by only using the hot glue. If I had had more time, I would have also reinforced this with the Fabri-Tac so that they'd last longer and have a stronger hold. To make the taps to go on the bar, I'm using these wood beads from Dollar Tree and applying hot glue to attach another one of those brads to the top. And I did a gold, I think a copper and a silver, just to give some variety. I found an old copy of a Detroit Free Press newspaper. I think it was from when the Lions won, which is rare. But I minimized it and printed it on just some regular printer paper, and I'm going to use it mainly to cover the little gap that was created when I put the two metal pieces together for the surface of the bar. So I think I lost a little bit of footage, but I wanted to show you that I'm using this glossy accents, which is like almost like a clear 3D paint, and I used it to make some watermarks on the surface, which you'll see later. And here I've gone back to another piece of that tin pan, and I'm just coloring some red, some blue, and some white, and we're going to make bottle caps. I'm using my hole punch to punch out a bunch of different little pieces, and then I'm going to use a tool from the Dollar Tree. I think it's a quilling tool, to make some lines and a little bit of a swirl to give these a little bit of a 3D look to them, like they were opened with a can opener or with a bottle opener, and then we stuck them in this cup, and I thought it was a cute little addition to the bar. And here you'll see the effects of the glossy accents I used to make the water stains on the bar. Next, I wanted to add this lantern by Tim Holtz that I've had in my stash for quite some time. I think it's a really cool little accessory. It's from the Ideology line, and it really lights up, and I thought it would go perfectly with the motif of the bar. So I am just stringing it through the top of the box and using washi tape to hold it in place, and then we're going to be covering the top so you won't see any of that. I'm using that rusted metal looking cardstock from earlier, and that actually says sheet metal on it, so it fits perfectly. Just trimming it down to cover the top of the box, and gluing it down with some of the Distress Collage Medium. Going back in with the washi tape once again to just clean up the edges of the paper. Another thing I wanted to do was add a little bit of design to the outside sides of the box. So I printed out a bunch of different quotes about taverns and saloons and bars. And I'm just distressing the paper with some of my distress ink here and water. And then and there's my little helper helping me spread the ink. And once the ink has dried on the paper, I'm just going to cut it up into little bits, and using that collage medium, I'll be attaching it to the sides of the box. The last call. So the sign on top was pretty simple to make. I just used a little sign from the Dollar Tree, added a little puffy sticker arrow, and used some chalk paint or chalk marker to add the last call writing, and attached it to the top there. And we're pretty much done. This was a very long process, but I feel like a very rewarding process. I think everything turned out pretty great, and I think my dad liked it a whole lot. So thank you if you made it this far for watching all the little bits that went into making this mini bar, and I hope you'll join me again for my next project. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.